All right, let's go ahead and just get this started. So the first couple questions will be a little bit kind of generic, but they'll be a good setting for getting into the more specific stuff for the stuff that actually happened in the games. So the first thing I'd like to ask is, how do you guys approach this when you're playing with people, generally speaking? So ZRQ, like when you're playing against Zerg, how do you normally go about that? Either with the ladder or with the random people who like to play in the Day 9 TV chat?
It's rather split actually, because against roaches, you want to go tanks or something like that, whereas against banelings, you want to go mines instead. So based on what he's doing, you try to react, but a lot of times you don't have that information.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's more like a guessing game. Go in and I don't know what I want to do, willy nilly. That's why in the last game versus was it Otter? Was it?
Yeah.
It started off with tanks, and then it went into mines. So you have half and half, and it was a mess.
That was an interesting game, that's for sure. For those of you who may have not been here at the time, basically, that game um, got a little bit messed up, unfortunately, because of a disconnect that happened in the middle of it. But
I
it
cheated.
it turned into a very well. It wasn't your fault, so don't worry about it. But basically, we ended up going too far back, and it went before critical engagement. Critical engagement happened differently, and then we felt very silly afterwards. But stuff happens. In
Yeah,
any
when I
case,
first logged in, the first thing was, my army's still alive. That's kind of funky.
yeah, I was looking at that and I was going, "Oh dang, I know what's gonna happen. Oh boy, whoops."
Probably should
I
have PP'd right there, right?
I thought, yeah, but oh well, whatever. You learn, you live and learn. So, in any case, that happened. But I was gonna ask if you had a particularly like a favorite style with that. Do you prefer one or the other if you're not worrying about what the Zerg is doing?
Usually I try to stick with bio a lot because, to be honest, I have no clue how to mech. I think those last two
Mhm.
games are just evidence of that. I was like, well, I don't know how many factories I can support off this. Let's just build, I don't know,
Mhm.
seven. And I think only three of them was active at any point in time until I got like a bank of some ridiculous amount or something.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, more is better than less for figuring out that kind of thing. It sounds like you may have learned something useful right there.
Yep,
Uh,
like Dana says,
yeah.
learning is losing is learning, right?
Usually, yes. That is for certain. But okay, Anuzarg, we'll switch things over to you. Same general question. How do you like to approach Zerg versus Terran against whoever you're playing, whether it, be somebody you do know or somebody you don't? So I could type that to him, or we can wait for him to catch up. I have no idea how much of a delay he has in the stream.
I think
Uh,
Twitch has switched to what, 60 seconds?
I don't. It's not standard. Like it depends a little bit on a bunch of different factors. There's like the base delay, which is something like 20 to 30 seconds, and then there's how much do you buffer. Then there's how your distance from the server relative to the other person, how well you're interacting with the other server. It gets messy. All right. I'm going to mute real quick so you guys don't have to hear me typing.
Anazark. All Terran buildos should involve tanks. That is until the Muta come along.
That's why he's telling you that. Yeah, you should only build tanks. Yeah.
Yeah, except I didn't see any Mutas except in the first game.
Yeah.
I was sort of expecting Mutas to come back there. So I built a bunch of turrets, but to no avail.
I just realized that I probably finally typed that in as lag caught up for him. But whatever. So, you know, because the other guy's talking a little bit about stuff from the daily there. I think it was daily 668. It's a build for mech. I might look at that myself. I've been kind of putting it off because I've been trying to focus on some other stuff. Like, trying to process in my brain how people can actually be as good as they are at Hearthstone when it feels so random to me. But I'm like, how are people not all trapped at rank 20? And then I realize after a while that there's certain cards that I simply don't have that they do. But that, anyway, I've been working on that. And okay, look, okay, we got an answer from Anuzarg here. 1414 in the mass mutas with Banes and Lings in between. So definitely kind of like favoring the more mutaling style, it seems. It's very common nowadays, and it's a very fun one to play as far as I can tell. So I can understand that. Let's see. Of course it isn't a free game. Talking about Hearthstone for a second. But anyway, yeah, let me type a response to Anuzarg real quick.
So how's the weather?
It's actually quite warm the last 2 days.
Yeah.
I think before we're having, what, -30 weather around here?
Wow.
Yep, so it's actually, what, 0
Those-
today, so it's pretty nice.
For any of you from Europe, he's probably talking in Fahrenheit.
Oh, sorry, I can't.
Because we'd all be
Oh,
dead.
no, that's okay.
It was
Yeah.
-30
I was gonna say -30. I was like, Wait, are you European, Zrqkyvx?
Nope,
No,
just north of the border.
just north of the border. Okay. -30 Celsius. What?
Yeah, I was gonna convert that. I think, what, -4 degrees Fahrenheit is -20 degrees Celsius?
Something like that. Yeah.
So
You hit
you're looking at...
-40, they're the same.
Well, I hope it's not -40 around here.
No, but that's brutally cold. So Anuzarg is actually saying he likes to. He's only hearing snippets of what I'm saying. Well, he likes to pull back and go to one base ultra. Okay, sounds like his internet connection probably can't handle the fact that we're at HD. Huh, whatever.
I did not see ultras. Disappointing. I went mech and no ultras. I did see more than one base though. Oh, you know what? I found out why my audio doesn't work. I turned off my speakers
Boom,
and
I
I
knew
forgot to
it.
turn them back on. So I was supply blocked the whole time, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, I actually thought you were doing pretty well with that. It didn't seem like it was happening all the time.
Yeah, every time I looked up, it was like supply block. Oh, I can't build any more units, and it didn't give me any text message or text display or anything. So it's like, audio, please, audio.
All right, then. Let's move on to another set of questions here. First one being, of course, for you, Zrq. After that game one, right?
Mm-hmm.
You man, take it pretty handily. What's your thoughts going into the game two?
Well, up one game or nothing, you're like, well, let's try something you don't usually try, and mech was the choice. Well, I guess it sort of ended up like mech. Not really.
I was actually wondering how much of that was planned, given how it looked like you were anticipating some kind of one base aggression with all the bunkers and everything coming out with the defenses.
Well, I believe I said that Hellion in, and it saw what roaches. So I'm like, well, I think it was Anuzarg who tried a roach rush against Otter there, except for the supply block. That was the only problem that he
Right.
faced on that aggression there. And so it's like, well, he could go for a rush or a roach rush, so let's just dump up down a couple of bunkers and hope it holds. And it didn't come, so it's like I'm out of money.
But you were but in any case, you were hoping to go for mech that game.
Yeah, and seeing the roaches, mech was like tank was probably the way to go anyways.
Mm.
Marines probably wouldn't hold off those roaches very nicely.
Okay. Well, not Terran myself, so I wouldn't really be able to answer that too well. All right, says he's closed Skype. That's fine. But I'll go ahead and type to him here. That'll probably help the connection a little bit. one of these things I do whenever I'm typing or like whenever I'm playing a game versus typing is I have my keyboard tilted and off to the side, kind of, so my wrist can rest on it a little bit easier, kind of like how it would with an ergonomic keyboard. But the problem with that is then I start turning into like the typo monster, which is why it takes me forever to type anything. Like, all right, Anuzarg WAH from backspace fix. All right, we got an answer here. What was his thoughts on game two? He thought, okay, mutas were terrible, hydras are better, and so that's kind of why he started switching up his style right there.
Oh, they're terrible against Marines, that's for sure.
Yeah, by themselves, definitely not wrong about that. All right. So I'm asking him here, was he intending to go for early aggression with Orochius? For those of you on the VOD who obviously can't see me typing the question. So early on, it did seem kind of like he was going for a one base attack and just kind of decided not to, which ended up working out very nicely for him, all things considered, because he got you to spend a lot of money on defenses that honestly didn't really come into play for most of the game. And okay, so he was thinking, oh, okay, so that actually wasn't what he was going for. Okay, he says that roaches are tanks and no one uses tanks for aggression. Yeah, interesting. Okay. All right, so next question. Who the Zrq? We'll just kind of oh, it looks like Zrq's throwing out a question of his own. In game one, why so many spines? Protection. Yeah.
Was there anything that cued you in? Or I guess I have to type this.
Yeah, you do have to type it. Yeah, we're like this is unfortunately the realities of what you have to do when somebody doesn't have a mic. But you know what? Hey, it's part of the fun. It's part of the fun of the day night show matches to learn about the people playing. Yeah, okay. This is actually something I find very fascinating about his answer here is that he wanted protection because he was worried that Zrq would come kill him. And he's asking if there was anything that cued him into that. Is your brain like in a game when you're faced with a situation that you've never seen before, your brain it tends to like super badly overreact to things. It will just be like, "Oh, I'm under attack. Time to build all the spine crawlers." Does that work? Maybe. You ask that question afterwards, though, because when you're in the game, it's kind of all instinct and reflexes. You can't think too hard, or else bad things will happen to you. Like you won't do anything, and you get badly supply blocked. All right, but anyway, let's talk about kind of like the same basic thing, but going into the next game. So with game two, that happens. Things don't go as nicely as they did in the first game for you. What were your thoughts going into game three?
Game 3, I think I tried the Banshee opening. It failed utterly. I mean, the Banshee was spotted and like, well, going home and macroing up, and well, you're already pretty screwed after that because you did no damage and you just came back. And you're seeing Hydras and Lings going across the map, and you're like, what am I supposed to do? Tanks deal with Hydras and Lings very well, so let's go with that. So it ended up being a mech game, although I don't think it was intended to be a mech game to begin with.
So you were hoping to go back into the bio style.
Yeah, right after the bio right after the Banshee there.
It was actually quite an interesting moment when we saw that get spotted because I think up until that point Anuzarg had no idea that was happening at all. So no real air defenses back home or anything going on. He just happened to have the Hydras in the right place at the right time.
I'm
And
almost starting to think maybe if that actually kept going, it might have done some damage, but I pulled it back, so it's like, ugh.
like it's a tough call to make sometimes. You wonder, do I keep it there so I can use it in my army? Is that the better question? Like, because he has anti-air, he's seated halfway across the map. By the time you get there, he could be halfway done building spore crawlers, and then what are you gonna do? And it's like I can't I can't blame you for making that decision necessarily. I would say, you gotta try it, right? Sometimes trial by error or talking to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about with Terran. Either way, sorry, I'm a Protoss. Um, that would have been possible. It might have gotten something done though. Never know. Anyway, let's see how it looked from Anuzarg's perspective. Okay. Managing that a little bit better. Trying to make everybody go deaf with my typing. But yeah, okay. So I'm asking Anuzarg what his thoughts were on game three. So he took game two. Was able to deal with the tanks. Caught he for whether by coincidence or not, he was able to get that expansion rate going a little bit ahead of the Terran, kind of like you want. But also manages to pick off a bunch of siege tanks just walking out of the base and eventually able to overrun it. So let's see what he has to say. So he says, I won with the Hydras. Let's go Hydras this time. Rush for lair, 3 base Hydra. Okay, so that was his goal.
Yeah, I was thinking whether any of that factored in, whether when you won with Hydra Roach, would you go back to Hydra Roach?
And it seems like that's kind of the typical response with a lot of players. And that's just that, you win with something, you want to do it again.
Yeah,
Sometimes it
I was
works,
tempted to go
sometimes it
back
doesn't.
to Bio right after game one as well. It's like, well, let's try something different. That's what we're here for, right?
Yep, yep. See if he has anything more to add on to that. Side conversation in the chat is that Tythor hates tanks, and Pilch is like, "Are you Zerg?" And he's like, "Yes." Awesome. Hmm.
Tythor apparently isn't a Muta player, eh?
Oh, I just realized how late it is. I don't know if I want to delay that anymore. I'll have to look at the length of those replays. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's ask one more question. Um, this is for kind of both of you, I guess, which was that whole transition from Hydras into Broodlords. First of all, I want to know, what did you think when that happened? Did you have
I
like
didn't
kind of like
actually
a
see the
panic moment? You were
transition with
like,
Broodlords.
uh-oh.
I didn't actually see it until I moved out and saw the morphing. So I'm like, well, let's throw down Vikings. I have what, one starport, one reactor starport, two Vikings at a time. They actually, I think only what, two got out or something out of four that got queued up.
Something like that. I know two
Yeah,
definitely got out.
and then they got sniped by Hydras anyways. They
Oh.
were rallied in the wrong direction. It's like, oh, well, that's that. I don't think they would have helped anyways, but you know.
Um, they would have delayed things for a while. Like, I don't know what would have happened immediately after that. I think all of the corruptors he had got turned into broodlords. So if nothing else, the broodlords would have been forced to leave for a bit. But yeah, it's hard to say where it would have gone after that.
I would probably have an easier time with it if I had Marines to pick them off, but even then I had what, a handful and that's it.
Yeah.
And they got killed by the Lings really quickly.
So
Well, I need
Anuzarg
Broodlord.
kind of already gave us his thoughts, actually. It's like basically when he sees someone's turtles, he likes to go for broodlords. It's like, so I'm going to ask him kind of a follow-up question to that. So what I'm asking him is how consistent he finds the broodlords in that situation. In the situation where the person turtles. Does it work? Does it get shut down? A lot of the time. I gotta say, like, positioning was a factor there. Like, he didn't just make the broodlords; he made them in Zrqkyvx's face, basically. Like, if they were halfway across the map and you were able to see them coming, there's a little bit more resistance when they get there.
Yeah, a little bit more Marines, barracks, and Vikings, I
He
guess.
doesn't manage to get on top of your production immediately. But
Or vision.
yeah. Then
Although I
again,
did
though, I
notice he
mean,
did have really good vision, though. He has overlords all over the place, and he
oh
was
yeah,
scouting around. You can see it moving. Although I don't know why he doesn't take out the SCV or whatever sitting at the watchtowers there.
that did happen for a while. There's actually smoke around it, so like unless he's sitting on the watchtower in game two, I think is what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Or game two and game three, I think it was.
Oh really? I didn't notice that in game three.
I think it was
But
left-hand side there.
okay, and I probably just forgot about it.
Yep.
Uh, there's always a win if they have no anti-air. Okay, so it does come down to that. It's mostly like whether they have anti-air already. I bet. But
That
anyway,
one Thor that was served no purpose whatsoever.
all right. All right, guys. Thanks for playing. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. It's actually already midnight by my time. So whether or not we do any more here is going to